But they're so cute and you're always smiling.
Yes, you got
Everybody back?
So since I gave my paper away, so I'll send it to you and you can print it. So I typed it all out like my outline.
Okay.
But okay, so you don't have to, is it started?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, for this presentation, we're all gonna go back and pretend like we're children again because this is geared more towards kids. And so with that being said, let's start. So I ate an apple that had a worm. I swallowed the apple, I swallowed the worm. I felt it squiggle and I felt it squirm, I felt it wiggle and I felt it turn. It was so slimy and so scummy and so squiggly and so yucky. And I felt it plop right in my tummy. And I guess that's where the worm will stay. Unless I eat a bird one day. So, my name's Jessica Gilts, and today I'm going to talk to you guys not about the food chain or about eating apples. We're going to talk a little bit about worms. So today, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about where the worm came from and what its body is like, and then why the worm is so important, even though it's such a gross creature. Excuse me. So, we all think that worms are pretty gross, and they're just a creature that's going to make us all scream. But today, I really hope that I'm going to change your perspective on worms. So, a lot of people say that worms came from Europe, and they say that they were brought on boats in the 1600s and 1700s because they would sneak into people's dirt when they would bring over their favorite plants, and then that's how they got here to America. Well, that's what some people say, but everybody all has their own opinions, and so this is just kind of one theory, and we all know that from Europe to America, that's a really long trip, especially for a worm on a boat. I mean, there's some people that didn't make it, so I'm sure that the worms didn't make it either. But scientists say that worms have been around for billions and billions of years. And here we see a couple fossils. The first one on top is just a regular worm, and then so is the one on the bottom. And they say that these worms have been around since some of the dinosaurs. And so worms have been around for a really long time, even though some people say that they just came to America a few hundred years ago. In this picture, this is what some of the scientists see. This is called a trace fossil. And so a trace fossil is where the worm burrowed itself through the dirt, and then this was what was left, which is just the tunnels in the rock. Well, some people say, well, that's silly. I mean, that's anything can do that. It doesn't have to be just a worm. So that's why we have different perspectives on where worms came from. So, has anybody here ever felt a worm? Now, what did it feel like?
Squishy.
Squishy, awesome. Yeah, we'll talk about that too. We'll talk about why that is. And so, when you feel a worm, it's really slimy because worms need moisture on the outside of their body to help them breathe because they don't have noses like we do and they don't have lungs. And so the moisture gets on their skin and then it seeps through their skin and then it transports the air all the way through their body. So it's big and strong like us. And so I think the best way, Erica, to learn about worms is if we have a couple.
Yeah.
So hold out your hand.
This is a challenge by choice activity.
I'll give you.
Are you going to curl up in a fetal position? Just watch
You got me.
Oh, that's one.
What?
You made a worm?
Who has it? Do you want a worm ball?
I'm going to observe the next worm. You guys don't want to.
Oh, yeah, give that one.
I don't want to
You have
partake.
to.
I'm going to just watch this.
Oh, it's a good one. We made it up, Brett.
Give him some coffee.
Well, I have some more.
Oh, I want to say Billie Jean is juicy.
Do worm fights? Take bets.
Okay, so if you take a look at your worm, you're going to notice that your worm doesn't have a head and it doesn't have toes, right? Because that'd be silly, because what do you think a worm would look like if it had a head, right? So, but it does have a beginning and it does have an end. So if you look at the part in the center, well, it's going to be more towards one of the sides. It wraps around a little bit. Some of them you can't see it very well because these worms are not the best, but that's going to be where the head is. And so the head is on one end, and then the butt is on the other end, of course. And so the very top part, so it'd be this part of your worm, this is called the anterior, and that's just about the first couple inches up. And the bottom part of your worm is called the posterior. If we go back to the anterior, where the head is, that's where the worm's mouth is. And then it also has a little flap of skin that covers its mouth, and so things can't get into the worm's mouth because just because it's a worm doesn't mean that it likes to have all things in its mouth, right? Excuse me. And then if you go to the bottom, like I said, that's where its butt is. And so that's where it poops from. Obviously, that's where everything poops from, right? And a worm's poop is called castings, and which is really important, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And so a really cool thing about worms is that they have 5 parts. And so TJ earlier, he said that you can rip them apart and they still move. And so if you rip your worm apart in half, it'll just still be moving because it still has more than one part on each side. And you can even rip it in half again and again, and it'll still move. So that's really cool. So like my worm is still moving, it's in 3 parts. And worms also don't have eyes, and so they can't see like we do, but they can still tell like where light is because they have cells at the top of their head to where they can still sense the light and tell where they're at. And so if we look at this screen, we talked about the first part of the worm. Does anybody remember what it's called? The head part? The anterior, good job. And then if we go to the next part, the end part, do you remember what that was called? The posterior, good. Does anybody, oh, I didn't even talk about this. Okay, so if you look at your worm, you're going to see little rings around it, right? Okay, so those are called segments, and worms can have 120 to 170 segments on each worm, depending on how big it is. If it's really big, then it will get even more segments. So that's what that is. And then up at the top where it eats is obviously called its mouth. Good job. So I'll pass the little thing around so you guys can put your worms back in here. I'm sure you girls don't want to keep them. I mean, if you want to keep them, you can.
Going fishing. Yeah.
Seriously, you drink the coffee out of the bottle.
All right, so lastly, we have, fish. Worms are not just bait, okay? So they have a lot of different benefits to them. The first one is that, I'm sorry, this picture's a little pixelated. It puts more air and water into the soil, and so the plants can grow bigger and stronger through the worm's help. Next, these worms eat everything on like the first layer of the soil, which is called like the organic matter. And they have like dead leaves, dead animals. So they eat all this and then they turn the soil, and so that it's easier for your plants to grow. And this picture's a little pixelated too, thank you. But this is the castings, the worm poop that we talked about, which is an awesome fertilizer, and I'm sure that if there's a lot of farmers out there that didn't have worm castings, they'd be very upset because it helps plants grow big and strong. And in 1 acre of land, you can have at least 1 million worms. That's a lot of worms. And what these worms do, they tunnel through the dirt and then make their little homes, and then this creates drainage for water, and about 500,000 worms can create about 2,000 feet of 6-inch piping, which is about this big. And so it really helps farmers out a lot. And so really what I want you to get out of this is that worms aren't just the creepy, nasty crawlers that we all see. I mean, they might look kind of scary, and they might not look very pretty, you know, and when you come across them, you might want to step on them and kill them. But I challenge you, next time you see a worm, maybe put it back where it came from, put it back in the ground, or not just step on it, because what you don't realize is that these worms are putting good food on your plate. And so this was Go Beyond the Wormhole, and my name is Jess, and today we talked about the history of worms and what worms are like and the benefits of worms. And I really hope that you took something out of this program, and I really appreciate all of your time. Thank you.
Worms certain roads.
Worms.
It was like 5.
9 minutes and 30 seconds.
Pretty solid.
10:39.
10:39.
Yep. It says good.